Hi, everyone. It is good to be back with you all. And today I was hoping to talk with you about the book of Lamentations. So, if you're following along with us on schedule, we just started working our way through this book. And I don't know about you, I think we're all different, but Lamentations for me is one of the harder books of the Bible to make my way through. And it's probably just the genre or the topic, right? Lamentations is obviously a book of laments, of cries. It's not exactly a pick-me-up or one that I try to read before bed to my children at night. But it is a super important book of the Bible. And I think there are a number of blessings to be found as we read this book. The book itself is anonymous. No one within the book of Lamentations identifies themselves as the author. But tradition, the Christian tradition, has passed down that Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, was the author of this book. And if that's the case, we don't know for sure. It would make sense. They're writing about the same time period, about the fall, the destruction of Jerusalem, the impending exile. And we know that Jeremiah composed some laments in his time. His book tells us that. And so Jeremiah is our best guess, although again, the book itself doesn't claim authorship. The book of Lamentations is comprised of 5 poems. This is a collection of poems together that is reflecting on the fall of Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple, and the exile of God's people. It's looking backwards at those events. And these laments, since it's not a genre of literature that we're used to reading regularly, maybe a little explanation would be helpful. Laments are a cry of anger and a cry of confusion. It's a way for people to voice, to protest to God out of anger, to say, what's going on here, God? This isn't right. Why are you doing this? To call out in confusion, what in the world is happening here, Lord? The laments are also a way for us to process our feelings, right? To kind of think and to pray, to write and to read out loud. And we all need some space in our lives to do that. The book of Lamentations, I think, at its core, the way it blesses us is that it honors and recognizes our feelings of pain, our feelings of confusion and hurt and wondering before God. It reminds us that God doesn't tell us to just be quiet about these things, to hold them inside. But there's a whole book of the Bible, amongst other books of the Bible, like Psalms, for example, in which God's people voice these things to God. They bring them to Him. And it reminds us that God hears these laments, these cries. He hears our confusion and our pain, and it validates that, right? And so I think it blesses us by reminding us that we shouldn't suppress that or seek to put it in a corner. It's not as though God doesn't want to hear these feelings that we have. No, He invites all of it. He invites our laments, our cries, our pain, and we give it to Him. I think it's also important to remember, though, that Lamentations is not the only book of the Bible, and it's certainly not the last word. If Lamentations is all we had, I don't know that we'd have much hope, although there are glimmers of it within the book. But Lamentations isn't it, right? And so we read Lamentations for what it is, for the blessing that it gives us, giving a voice and validity to our cries. But we also read it in light of other books of the Bible, in light of the gospel, the message of Jesus Christ. That God has heard our laments, He hears our cries, He hears your cries. And rather than just staying up there in heaven on His comfy throne, what did God do? He descended to this earth, He lived, He died, and rose for you because He heard our cries. And He sees our pain, and He wanted to fix that problem eternally. So just wanted to touch on that a little bit to you. So if you are feeling like you need to lament this week, let it out. God hears you. But don't forget the gospel, that Jesus came because of those laments. He came to bring you victory. He came to bring you grace. He came to bring you life. Until next time, God bless you all.